Good afternoon, everyone. We'll allow one more minute for people to come in. Welcome. My name is Taya, and I'm the Administrative Coordinator at the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple SBDC helps small businesses start, grow, and succeed. We do this through our no-cost consulting and a variety of our no-cost webinars and training programs like the one you're attending today. You're joining us for Is My CEO Working? SEO, working, how Google Search Console and Google Analytics can help measure digital performance. We are recording today's session, and follow-up materials will be sent to you within 2 to 3 business days after this webinar. All attendees have been muted. We encourage you to ask any questions that will be and they will be answered at the end of this webinar. Now I'll turn over the floor to Zach.
Thanks, Taya. And hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. My name is Zack Duncan. I work for a small digital marketing company called Root and Branch Group, and put together some fun facts. I don't know if they're that fun, but 3 facts about me. One, as I was telling Taya before we all joined up here now, I just moved to North Carolina. Prior to that, I had lived in Pittsburgh, but now I live in Greensboro, North Carolina. Getting used to that. I'm currently experimenting with going caffeine and alcohol free. It has been really hard, but I've got my my decaf right now. And third fun fact, I really like digital marketing, and I make some instructional video tutorials about how to do different types of things. So as we go through our discussion today, I'll put in some links to things that you might want to do yourself in SEO or Google Analytics. So those will be links to the Root and Branch YouTube channel if you are interested. All right, so what are we going to talk about today related to SEO? We'll briefly talk about the digital marketing ecosystem and what Google wants, just to kind of orient ourselves to where we are. And then we'll talk about why does measurement matter. You guys are probably all convinced that it matters because you're here, so we won't take too long on that. And then we'll talk about Google Search Console and 5 practical ways that we can use Google Search Console. So we'll do some slides here, and then we'll also click over to Search Console itself and work through navigating the platform together. And then we'll talk about Google Analytics, what it is, and how we can use it in our measurement. If there's time, and I think there will be for this, I've got a client example from earlier this year, one of the Root and Branch clients, how we do SEO reporting for them and use data almost exclusively from Google Search Console and Google Analytics. So we'll go through some anonymous data for that so you can see what that looks like. If there's time, we'll talk about what makes good content. And the reason that we're talking about what makes good content is when we try to improve our SEO, like we're doing, let's say, some SEO reporting and some measurement, we see some opportunities. A lot of the time, what's going to make our performance better is going to be improving our content, whether making it more in depth or just refreshing it, making it more current. So we'll talk about what Google is looking for. And then we'll have those links to the video tutorials that I had mentioned. Any questions? I'll make sure to leave at least 7 to 8 minutes at the end, hopefully a little bit longer for questions. So we'll make sure we have that. The digital marketing ecosystem and Google. So when we talk about digital marketing, there's so much, right? We got social media, and social media alone is Instagram, it's TikTok, it's LinkedIn, it's Twitter. There's web development, local SEO, like our Google business profile, our Yelp page. There's paid search advertising. on-site and technical SEO, analytics and CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. And there's even stuff like marketing automation. But Google sits at the center of almost all of that. So I'm not sure, but some of you may have joined for 3 prior webinars earlier this year. We covered local SEO, search advertising, and also on-site SEO, how to blog to improve our SEO results. What we're talking about today, it's a little bit of Search Console, which is primarily it's an SEO tool, and also Google Analytics, which lives in that analytics bucket, obviously. But as we think through all of this stuff, we're just going to remember that Google sits at the middle of so much of this. And what does Google want? What are Google's motivations? Well, search engines like Google, they are constantly looking for content that is relevant, authoritative, and helpful in answering questions from users. So Google has this bot called Googlebot, and Googlebot is just out all over the internet all day, every day, looking through websites, crawling content, and trying to figure out what content is the most relevant, the most authoritative, and the most helpful in helping people get the answers that they need from Google. That makes Google sound really magnanimous. And it's true that search engines are in the customer service business, but they are in the customer service business because they have a vested interest in being in the customer service business. And that's because about 80% of Google's revenue comes from advertising. In 2021, Google's parent company Alphabet reported $258 billion in revenue, of which $209 billion was from advertising. And advertising is really just when people click on some of the paid ads in Google. And that happens maybe only about 10% of the time. Most of the time people click on the unpaid ads, which is SEO. But Google needs us continuing to use and trust and like the Google ecosystem so they can monetize us. So for all things related to Google, the implication is we will get the best results when we align our motivations to Google's and provide great content and a great user experience, which if you think about it, that's probably a pretty good thing for us as small business owners because we want to have happy customers. So why does measurement matter? Why should we measure SEO performance? Well, if you as a business owner are investing your own time, you certainly know that there's a million things you can do with your time. So you want to make sure your investment of your time is paying off. And if you're paying someone else, you absolutely want to make sure your financial investment is paying off as well. So we want, is there a return on our investment? And if we're not currently seeing a positive ROI, are we trending in the right direction? Are there opportunities we can find in the data where we can prioritize to help make things better? For example, are there new content performers on our site, like new pages that are doing well? Are there pages that used to perform really well in organic search that are now doing poorly? If we can identify those, that can help us really target any of our workflow where we might be, again, working on revising existing pages or creating new content. What do we want to find? Well, we definitely want to find an answer. Are things going well or not? And if they're not, we want to find a reason to explain any sudden changes in SEO performance. We can help understand our website a little bit more. And also, as I had mentioned, we want candidates for pages where we might want to expand and refresh the content or even create new content. Now, when we talk about SEO, unlike Google Ads, is not something where we can get overnight success. SEO takes time to show results, and the best results, at least my opinion, what I've found, the best results typically come from having a solid plan and then consistently executing against it. What we don't want to do is have a plan, and then when we don't get amazing results in the first month, change everything because we think somehow it's not working. This is a poll of people who work in SEO. In your experience, how long does it take SEO to show measurable results? You can see most people there are in that 3 to 6 month bucket. I'd say, yeah, somewhere around 3 months is probably a decent amount of time to develop an SEO plan and then measure it and not try to hold off on making too many big decisions until you give it time to kind of work. And that's where Google Search Console can come in, helping us to measure things. So what is Search Console? This is what Google says about it. Search Console tools and reports help you measure your site's search traffic and performance, fix issues, and make your site shine in Google search results. So Search Console is all about how your website performs in Google organic search. It is only going to tell us about Google organic search. It can't tell us anything about what people do once they land on your website. It can't tell us anything about, say, Bing organic search or Yahoo organic search, only Google. But Google has about 90%, more than 90% of the search market. So knowing what's happening in Google organic search is really what most people focus on when they're measuring SEO. If we want to know what people do once they come to our website, that's where Google Analytics comes in, which we will talk about after we talk about Search Console for a little bit. So what are 5 ways we can measure with Search Console and then make our findings actionable? So we'll go through these 5. We can see the overall trend in Google organic search performance. That's 1. 2, we can improve ranks for keywords outside of the top several spots, but that are still on the first page. And that's because those are likely going to be our best candidates for getting a rank increase and then having that translate to a big increase in clicks on visits to our site. We can get keyword ideas for expanding our content when we can see search terms or search queries that we're already ranking for, but we haven't specifically tried to target. We'll talk about that. We'll find pages that are losing traffic. And if any of you on the webinar today have a brick and mortar business, I hope you have a Google business profile. It used to be called Google My Business. If you don't, I would say ask at the end and I'll make sure to maybe answer some questions there to let you know how to do that, send you some links to make sure you can do that, because the Google business profile is really, really, really important for SEO, for ranking for any kind of near me searches, dentist near me, hair salon near me, plumber near me. So any local business with a brick and mortar location, we can use Google Search Console to see what specific terms are we ranking for with that Google business listing. So number 1, see the overall trend in Google organic search performance for your website. This is a screenshot of the root and branch site, what we'll see in the performance report in Search Console, and we'll click over there in just a minute. But we can pick what kind of search results we're looking at. Google has not only regular web searches, but there's also video search and image search. So we can toggle and change that if we want. We can pick our time range. And what's graphed here on the chart that we're seeing is total clicks. You can see that in blue, 62,800 total clicks. But we can also see these things in this red box. Total impressions, our average click-through rate, and our average rank, or our average position. And you can see over time how that has trended. So, back in March of 2021, looked like we were getting, somewhere between 30 to 100 clicks a day. And now if we go out to the right, you can see a high-end day might be, it's over 300. It might be between 80 and 300. So we can definitely see that trend is going up and in the right direction, which a lot of times for SEO, we just want to know, hey, are things generally working well? Because if so, let's just keep doing what we're doing and not overthink things. So let's pull this up now for the root and branch site. So the way to get to Search Console, it's just search.google.com and then Search Console. Whoop. And once we have verified ownership of our website, which Google calls our property, we'll be able to see all the data here about it. Now, if you have access to others like I do here, you can see there's a whole bunch of different websites here for other businesses that I help with their SEO. But if we just look at this, this performance report here, you can click into search results. And this is where I was changing, like if we wanted to change from 3 months to 6 months, or the last 12 months, or the last 16 months, we can put those filters on and get a really quick snapshot of how things are looking. We can change this from web search to image search. You can see there's not a ton of clicks coming to the Root and Branch website from image, only 665, but also video searches. So these are people who are finding YouTube videos in Google organic search and clicking to the website that way. And for any of these, we can toggle on things like impressions. An impression is just like how often is a search result showing up. Click is how often, obviously, is someone clicking it. And then this average click-through rate, is total number of clicks divided into the total number of impressions. So basically how many chances your website had to get a click from Google, and how often it actually happened. And then we can also look at our average ranking position as well. So all of these things we can toggle on or off just with a single click. And it's a really powerful framework just to get some really quick high-level insights about our SEO performance. So that's number one. Number two, we can improve our ranks for keywords that are close to, but outside of the top several spots. Here's what I'm talking about. This chart here shows for the position of 8. So the 8th spot in a Google organic search result, basically just the really bottom of page 1, but still on the page, the first page, the click-through rate, that CTR, is 1.8%. This is just like on average. So you're getting, if your website has 100 impressions, right? If this web page shows up, it's only going to get 2 clicks, best case scenario. But if you can move all the way up to position 2, you're going to get almost 14 clicks. So you're going to get a 7 times increase in your click volume to your website by moving up from spots 8 to spot 2. Now, if you were to move up, say, from position 40 to position 10, you're going to move up 30 spots. You're not going to get that same kind of click increase in terms of people coming to your website as if you were able to move up from position 8 to position 2, because for the most part, most people are just going to stay on the first page of Google. So we can identify what are those keywords on our site where we are ranking maybe between position 3 and position 8, and prioritize those to see, can we do more to help those keywords specifically, rather than just kind of saying, hey, willy-nilly, let's kind of just try to rank for anything. So let's go back to Search Console and see how we can do that. And we can say, actually, in this video search here, so we're looking here just at people who, let's see, here's a Google Analytics for, this is a topic that there's a good amount of content on my website about, Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics. And you can see here where there are all search results here, but we can also click over to video. This is a video from Root and Branch. So any clicks from here to the website would show up in that video search. And this is where image search is as well. So any clicks from images to the website would show up in that image search. Whereas the standard web search, which is most of the click volume, is showing up here under all. Okay, so what specific search queries are we ranking for in video search? So if we scroll down on this search results performance report, we can see what those search queries are. What are the specific search terms and how many clicks are we getting from each? Now it's important to note that Google only gives us partial data here. So there's 4,470 clicks we're looking at. If we were to add up all of these different numbers, it would be less than that, but the information is directionally accurate. In other words, we know that Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics and GA4 versus Universal Analytics, they're more than twice as important as the third most important search term. And let's say we want to toggle on our average position. And we can see where we're showing up for those things. So GA4 versus Universal Analytics, that's the first spot. But what if we wanted to find keywords where we're ranking between, say, spots 3 and spot 8? We can apply a filter let's say a filter that is greater than 8.1 and then apply that. So we only want to show search terms where we're not ranking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. We just want to see what's below that. We can expand this rows per page down to 25. And then we can click this position button here, which Google will use, Search Console will filter for us. And now we can see, well, let's also toggle on our total impressions so we can see how often we're showing up for things. This is very interesting. So digital analytics, we can see we're ranking 8.2 in Google video search for that. And that would be one where we'd expect, hey, if we could get that to 3 or to 2, we could get 7 times more clicks. That might be the best one for us to focus on. And if we click into that individual search term, that search query, now we can look over at this, at pages and see what is the specific page that is ranking for that. So it's this page right here. Root and branch group. Digital analytics. We can see there is a video here that's embedded. And this is the video that is currently ranking in Google video search, number 8.2. And this could be something where we could improve the optimization on this page to better rank for this and try to get that higher up in the ranking. All right, so that is the second way that we can use Search Console. The third way is kind of similar. We can get ideas for new sections of blogs. And I think for any of you who have websites, I think a business blog is a really good idea to consider because that is going to be, if we want to rank new content on our site, that's going to be one of the best ways to do it. So let's say you're a dentist in Doylestown, you can have a frequently asked questions page, an FAQ page with like, what are some of the most common questions that your patients ask you? You know, what kind of insurance do you take? What kind of procedures do you do most commonly? Oh man, clearly you can tell not a dentist. I'm running out of questions pretty early, but you can just make a big list of those questions and Google will see them. And those will be questions that you can rank for. So then when people ask Google a question and they're close to you, they might stumble across your website. So one example, on the Root and Branch website, there's a FAQ page, a frequently asked question page about Google Analytics 4. And going through Search Console, I can see some of the questions that people have asked about Google Analytics. when does Google Analytics 4 start? What version of Google Analytics do I have? And I can use those to create new sections on this FAQ page. So let me briefly go over, we'll look at that page. We'll go back to the home page here. Here's a link to that FAQ page. And we can see some of those questions. When does Google Analytics 4, the new Google Analytics, replace the old one called Universal Analytics? Is GA4 harder to use than Universal Analytics? What is a data stream? All of these questions. So as new questions show up in Search Console, that's a way for me to know that my potential readers, my potential clients are interested in these things. And if I can answer those questions, that's going to help not only this piece of content rank more highly in Google organic search, but it's also going to help make me a more valuable resource for people who are looking for answers to those questions. So let's do that same kind of position filter again, but instead of video search, we'll do it for web search. So let's say if the position is greater than 8.1, and then we'll rank by that. Oh, have to change that to web instead of video. So we can see a common theme here, the difference between these two properties, and I know I've already written about that. So that wouldn't be a good idea to write new things about because I already have it. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, should I use Google Analytics 4 or Universal Analytics? Maybe this one on a different page, how to schedule a call with a Facebook marketing expert. All of these things are questions that people are asking that the website is. Excuse me, so sorry. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Dog's barking at a neighbor. Okay. So number 4. What's the fourth way we can use Search Console? We can find pages that are losing traffic, and then we can then update those pages. So when we apply what date range we're looking at, we can choose this comparison where we can compare the last 3 months year over year, then just hit this apply button. And then we can sort that when we look at pages by the clicks difference. So which pages are dropping in click volume year over year. We can see right here, there's a couple, the 2 at the top have dropped more than 100 clicks year over year. We know that overall traffic trend is increasing. So these might be candidates for us to look at and then refresh the content. So the way that we would do that, we'd just change this date range to compare last 3 months year over year, apply. And Google Search Console will show us both search queries, which are same thing as search terms or keywords, and also pages. So we just toggle over to pages, and then we can click by this, sort by this clicks difference, and quickly get to which pages are losing the most, which would again be our top candidates if we wanted to try to reverse that decline. The 5th way that we can use Search Console, and this is the last one here, we can measure how your Google business profile is performing. So Google Business Profile. We bet most folks on this call know what that is. But let's say, yeah, dentist near me. This right here, this is called the Google Business Profile. And all of these results come from Google My Business or the Google Business Profile. So it's like what drives your Google Maps location. And this is something that's very free for any business to get. If you don't have it yet, again, I can provide some links, but you basically tell Google, hey, Google, I own this business. Google says, really, prove it. I'll mail you a postcard with a verification code. And once you have it, you can set up your business, put in pictures, your hours, your address, and we'll make it really easy for it to show up in that what's called the map pack or the local 3-pack. And if you want, you can isolate how your business listing is performing, it's separate from your website. But because there are clicks from the business listing to your website, we can see how that's performing in Google Search Console. The way we do that is we add these certain tracking parameters when we put in our website URL in the Google Business Profile. And that's what we can see here for this business that has 3 different locations. You can, if you squint, you can see one says Mount Lebanon, one says Pleasant Hills, and one says Washington. Those are the 3 different locations for this business. And we can see how is that business listing performing. We can see all of them are increasing in clicks. If you want to know how to do that, you will need to know what UTM parameters are and then just update your Google Business Profile. So this will be 2 links in the appendix for a tutorial of how to do that if you want to do that for your business listing. But once you have that set up in Search Console, you can analyze those individual business listings and see things like, hey, how am I doing for near me searches? So in Google Search Console, you can apply a search query filter, and that's going to drill down into your total number of clicks if you only wanted to see your clicks that included the term near me. So you just hit that button to add a new filter, add a new query filter, and you can just type whatever you want. So you can see here, I put in near me, and then we apply that. And now we can see for that particular business, there were 751 clicks that included the term near me. Now we're looking at only those near me searches. If we change our date range like we just did to look at a year-over-year comparison, we can do that as well. So this is the 3-month period compared to the preceding 3-month period. We can see that that near me clicks increased to 751 from 373. So we know that those near me searches are up over 100%, which could lead to potentially 378 new prospects on the website who search for something like name of our business, type near me. And for this particular client, we know that those patients, because this is actually for a dermatologist, they turn into new patient request forms at a rate of about 10%. So that's 38 new patients just based on getting more of these additional near me clicks, which will tell us, let's keep doing what we're doing in our Google Business Profile work. So some questions we can ask ourselves to guide measurement. What is the overall trend of Google organic search traffic to the site? We can look at web, video search, image search. Are things generally on the right track, or are there issues that we need to investigate? For example, are the click volume going way down? We can apply a date filter and look at in the past 3 months compared to the prior year, which pages are decreasing in organic search performance, potential candidates for us to revise the content. We can also look at
Hi, everyone. Zach will be right back. He had technical difficulties, so please hold on for 1 second. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, you're back.
All right. Am I back?
Yes.
Thank you, Taya. Taya, how long was I out for?
Um, I would say less than 2 minutes. It wasn't bad.
Less than 10 minutes.
No, two. It
Oh,
wasn't. It was like really quick.
okay. Whew. Well, thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. So yeah, we were just wrapping up with Search Console, which questions we can ask ourselves to guide measurement. These are just kind of directional questions. This will be in the deck. If you'd like a copy of it afterwards, you can certainly get that. And another YouTube link for how to track keyword rankings with Search Console. Also, you probably want to know how to set up Google Search Console. If you haven't done it yet, you can get started with Search Console by signing in with your Google account, and that's at search.google.com/search console. And Google will give you two options for how you can verify your property, which is your website. You can do it at the domain level or what's called the URL prefix level. The domain level on the left is going to require you to access where your actual domain name is hosted, whereas the one on the right, the URL prefix, you just need to get like a tiny little piece of code onto your website that Google basically gives you as a verification code. So that's often the easier way to do it, this one on the right. URL prefix being like HTTPS versus HTTP. So if you have a WordPress site, there's a tutorial for how to do that with Yoast. If you have another site and you want help with this, I would say, yeah, if you drop a comment on that video, I will do my very best to find a resource to help you. So that's Search Console. Google Analytics is for website measurement and analysis. So what is it? It is a free, usually free, and it's the reason it's usually free is for enterprise level businesses. There is a payment for all that additional processing power, but for smaller businesses like yours and mine, it's totally free for us. And it is found on 87% of the world's top 10,000 websites. It's designed to provide data and insights about web traffic patterns, user behavior, what are your popular pages, and things that are called conversions. So conversion being like, what's the most important stuff that happens on your website that turns prospects into customers. So e-commerce business, probably a completed purchase is your most important conversion. If you're looking for new, say, patients or new appointments, it might be submitted forms that are the most important conversions for you. Google Analytics works by taking a piece of JavaScript tracking code with a unique ID that is linked up with your Google Analytics property, and then that goes on to the back end of your website. It looks kind of like that. There's a unique tracking ID that would be different for everyone. That's how Google matches the data. And what are some things that we can do with Google Analytics? You can see where your traffic comes from. So in this case, this website, this is the root and branch website. That's really small there, but this is showing us that 85% of our users, 85% of our traffic to the website comes from Google organic search. You can see some of the other sources there as well. A little bit of Instagram, a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of Bing, but Google far and away the most important. If you link up your Google Analytics property with your Google Search Console, which you can totally do, you can get some of that Search Console data in Google Analytics. So you can see top performing search queries, like for the root and branch site, it's some SEO stuff like local SEO, what are backlinks, SEO writing, and also some things about Google Analytics. You can see your top performing pages. There's a top pages report. You can measure your site speed. How fast is your site? Is it getting faster or slower over time? And you can track events like scrolling, or if you have embedded videos, you can track video plays or link clicks or file downloads, all of that stuff through Google Analytics. That's showing us there's a scroll activity, link click, video starts, and all of that data. If you can see what are the specific pages that kind of activity is happening on. Some of this stuff does take some additional configuration. The other things we've looked at so far really don't, but this would. Also, it takes additional work to track conversions. So this is one for contact page form submissions, and we can see there's a spike every time that happens. So July 23rd, there was one, July 26th, July 28th, and July 30th. And during that time frame, we can see what's our conversion rate. So we can get a sense of how much traffic do we need to expect to get a conversion. And for this particular conversion, it happens 0.28% of the time. So 1/4 of 1% of the time, not that often. But you can see where those conversions are coming from. Like, are they coming from organic search? Are they coming from social media? And tell you more about how you should prioritize your efforts. If you have an e-commerce site, you can measure your e-commerce conversion efficiency as well. This is a built-in report in Universal Analytics. So for this particular website, there were 345 sessions on the site during the time period in question, of which 105 had no shopping activity, leaving 239, and 211 of them didn't involve any additions to the cart. So no items were added to the cart. So 29 sessions did have an add to cart session. So 29 people entered the checkout, 16 people abandoned their cart during the checkout process, leaving 13 sessions with transactions. You can start to see like how people are moving through your purchase funnel. So what's new with Google Analytics? In 2022, I mentioned this, but there's a new type of Google Analytics called Google Analytics 4. That's the default version, while the prior version called Universal Analytics, I think is still kind of better, but that's going to go away beginning this time next year. So Google sent this email. You probably got it if you have Google Analytics on your website that said Google Analytics 4 is replacing Universal Analytics. And beginning July 1st, 2023, we will have only one option. So that is worth knowing. What's not new? It's free and available for businesses with the interest and the capacity to use it. So some questions that I think are helpful to guiding measurement. What's the overall trend of total traffic to the site? Is it increasing, decreasing, or staying flat? What are the biggest contributors to driving traffic? Is it organic search, social media, email marketing, paid search advertising? And how are those traffic channels performing? What pages are most popular? What is the overall trend of conversions? So again, if you're an e-commerce store, probably sales, something else, maybe it's appointment requests, but those things that actually are going to make your business money, what's the trend like in conversions? And that's going to be something that's really helpful, especially if you have, say, an SEO, freelancer, or consultant or agency that you're paying. You're going to want to see not only are you getting more traffic, but is that increase in traffic leading to more conversions that are actually going to make the business money? And is that return on investment looking positive? You're going to want to know which traffic channels are most successful in creating those conversions. And if you're spending, let's say you have a digital media budget, you're spending in Google Ads, and you're also spending in Facebook, are there changes needed in media allocation? You might find you get a 5% conversion rate in Facebook and only a 1% conversion rate in Google Ads, which might make you think, hey, maybe I should shift some of that budget from Google over to Facebook. How do we set up Google Analytics? To get started, If you don't have an account, you go to analytics.google.com, and you'll need a website, a Gmail or a Google linked email address, and a way to get the tracking code that Google Analytics will give you onto your website. I mentioned that Google Analytics 4 will be the new standard. So the process for getting that Google Analytics set up will be probably different depending on what kind of website you have. So the CMS for a website is like your content management system. Might be Shopify or Wix or WordPress. If you have a Wix site, there's this 5-minute tutorial for how to set up Google Analytics on the site, how to get that tracking code on there. Walks through the whole process of creating the account. If you have Google Tag Manager already on your site, this video shows how to set up Google Analytics 4 in about 5 minutes with Google Tag Manager. All right, we've got about 5 to 7 minutes to go through this this example of an SEO reporting deck from a client from earlier this year, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. And hopefully we'll see that the stuff that we're looking at here, that's actually kind of the stuff we've already talked about today. Google Search Console and Google Analytics. So what are we measuring? For this particular client, we are measuring website visits. So overall trend in web traffic. We're going to look at which pages are most important in driving that web traffic. And we're also going to see what's the trend in conversions, which in our case, for this client, are patients who come to the site, I would say prospective patients who come to the site and fill out a contact form to request an appointment. And those conversions are, like I said, the primary objective. It's not the only thing we can focus on because there are things that lead to conversions. You can't get conversions without web traffic. But if you're only talking about traffic or only talking about keyword ranks and not conversions, ultimately it's going to be really hard to tie back to a return on investment. All right, and yeah, we'll look at Search Console and Google Analytics data. So one of the things that we look at is the trend in traffic. So we'll see here that monthly traffic was up versus last year and up versus the prior month. This screenshot here is the blue is showing what the this year data was, and the orange is showing the prior year comparison. So if you look right there where the arrow is flashing on the screen, that is March. So March of 2022, there were 18,641 users. Up, you can see about 103% from the same month the year prior. So high level, looks like things are good. More people are coming to the website. That's a good start. Then we want to know, where is that coming from? So we can drill down into that and see this organic search. So monthly traffic was driven by organic search traffic. So look at, we saw on the previous page, there were about 18,000 users. 16,000 users came from organic search, and they drove 18,277 sessions. The difference between those two things just means that there were some people that came to the site more than once in the month. Users should be unique, where sessions would be, if I went to a website 4 times today, I would count as 1 user and 4 sessions. So the vast majority of our traffic is coming from Google Organic Search, which tells us, okay, that's where we should focus our efforts when we are prioritizing our measurement and prioritizing trying to work on anything. And it also leads us to Google Search Console, because we know that Google Search Console is one great source to see which pages are driving the most organic clicks from Google Organic Search, and how is that trending. So this is the last 28 days. We just put in one of those date filters in Search Console that we looked at, and just grabbed a screenshot of what that report looked like. And we can see there's a mix of new blog content at the top of the list there in small font. You can see there's one about types of moles, which was nearly 5,000 clicks. and also some of those Google business listings with those UTM parameters that we had added. So this is filtered just by what's driving the most clicks in the last 28-day period. There's that types of moles blog, and we can see that's totally new, right? So compared to the previous year, that blog didn't exist. So part of the reason that organic search is so much better this year is we got a new blog that's doing really well. There's another one that's new, how to improve the skin texture and complexion. And then we have all of these Google business listings again. We can start to analyze what's our traffic composition. We can drill into those near me searches like we had talked about, and not just look at the total number, but we can see like what are those specific search terms. Dermatologist near me being far and away the most important, but we can also see, you know, mole removal near me, pediatric dermatologist near me, microneedling, Botox. And that's great too, but we want to know how many conversions, again, those new patient appointment request forms, how many conversions are we getting? And we'd go back to Google Analytics for that because we have set up this conversion tracking thing. So every time someone fills out a form, they get sent to a page that says, thank you for filling out the form. And we tell Google Analytics, hey, I want you to record a conversion every time somebody gets to that thank you page, and then track that so we can have that in our data. And that's what we're looking at right here. That says completed form and hit the TY page, the thank you page. How often is that happening each month? Well, there were 221 of those in March of 2022. And using Google Analytics, we can see where that traffic came from. So Google Ads, the Google business listings, Facebook, Bing organic search, etc. So that is the end of the line. There's only 9 minutes left. There's a couple slides here that will be in the appendix and will get sent out if you're interested in revising your content to talk about what makes good content according to Google's research. And then in the final appendix, we have those different YouTube resources that I had mentioned and links to them. So, you know, if you wanted to set up Google Analytics on a Wix website, hit that, go to that link there. Okay, well, thank you. I am gonna kind of cut myself off here and see if there's any questions.
While everyone is posting their questions, I'll attach a link to the survey that is required by the SBA that allows us to continue our webinars at no cost, as well as a link to our resource page.
Let's see, man. No open questions yet. Was this kind of a lot? I mean, I feel like this was, we covered a bunch of stuff, some things that are pretty in-depth. And yeah, we got one. Sean, okay, the best way for small and scrappy upstarts to compete with deeper pocketed competitors in their digital strategy. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, Sean, if you are a small business that has a physical brick and mortar location, the single most powerful thing that I've seen for SEO is that Google business profile. The reason is that local 3-pack that we talked about before, that gets more than half of all the clicks on the search engine results page when it shows up. And it shows up over 90% of the time when somebody has what Google calls a local intent search. Local intent being like something near Philadelphia, something near Pittsburgh, something near me. So if people are searching for those local things a lot, it's nearly half of all searches have local intent. And when they search for them, that 3-pack shows up. And a small and scrappy upstart can do just as well, sometimes a lot better. Say if you got a coffee shop, you can often outrank Starbucks because you're going to provide a better user experience, customer experience. You're going to have fans that like you more. They'll be willing to give you good reviews. You can respond to those reviews, and Google's going to see that and say, when somebody searches for coffee near me, I'm going to rank Sean's coffee spot above Starbucks, and you're going to be in the mix to get all of those clicks from the local 3-pack. If you don't have a Google business profile, I would say blogging is actually a really good way to drive traffic to your website. You can use both if you are both a local business and you have a website with a blog. But writing about, like showing your expertise both to your customers and to Google is going to help you rank. Google Search Console is going to be a great way to help you kind of refine that strategy and measure it. Yeah, that's a really good question. If I said something that you're like, hey, that's totally not my situation, if you want to revise your question, feel free, and I will try again. All right, links for the survey, copy of the presentation. I guess, Taya, those are questions for you. Yep, they're in the chat there. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, maybe I'll talk one more minute about the Google business profile. We'll just go into this and I'll show you what are the most important parts. Is it possible to disable reviews if your industry has regulations against testimonials? No, unfortunately, it's not. Google, yeah, that is something that it's possible to ignore the reviews, I guess. Like you don't need to respond to them, but there's not a way to toggle off those reviews. We'll just look at really briefly this coffee shop, which Sean, I know is not going to help you. But when those reviews come in, they're all cataloged here, and then it's possible to reply to them and all of that stuff. I'm hitting insights here, and you can see how often things are happening. So in the last month, this particular cafe showed up 40,000 times, and you can see where they showed up, whether it was Google Search or Google Maps, and what happened on it. So 49 direct calls, 320 direction requests, 226 visits, which again, for these guys, they can do just as well, if not better than Starbucks. For your industry, yeah, I know that's not going to work for you. So I would recommend looking at a blog, and maybe there's like business partners that you have or clients or suppliers who'd be willing to write about some of their areas of expertise that are related to things that people are looking for. And once that content's on your website, you're going to start showing up. Your business is going to start showing up when people are looking for those types of things, which is going to win you new eyeballs and hopefully the opportunity for more conversions. All righty. Well, I don't think there are any additional questions, but thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you for the patience when I just dropped off there for 2 minutes. Taya, thank you as well for your patience and holding it together for me. And yeah, I guess that's it. Do you think?
Yeah, we can wrap up. Thank you, Zach, for joining us today. Also, everyone, the link to the survey will be in the follow-up email, as well as the presentation that you will receive within 2 to 3 business days. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.